Hey everybody, we're the Benchwarmers. Welcome back to your bi-weekly look at the world of Jews and sports. I am joined today by my co-host Gabe. How you doing, buddy?
Good. Like Stitzel, I have returned. I've come
Yep.
back.
Gabe missed
A
our
little
last
bit.
episode. Out with a baby. You know.
Yes, I had my wife had I guess a babyectomy, and then after that, we now have a child. So
Yeah.
I haven't really slept in 2 weeks. He's doing quite well. The circumcision is perfectly healed. He's doing great. And now I'm sort of, like I said, running on fumes. So I may not make sense tonight, but I'm so glad to be back in this host chair for our bi-weekly look. So at the world of sports. So Shalom Aleichem, everybody. And
Yeah, here we are. Think about it. We started this podcast about 2 years ago. You know, you and I, our producer Michael, we're all babyless adult children, and now we all have children of our own. And
before we know it,
some would say it's time to put away our childish things, but we persist nonetheless. Gabe, I know you've been out of commission with the baby, so we'll talk a little bit about, I guess, things that have gone on the last couple of weeks.
I heard Julian Edelman retired.
Yeah, Julian Edelman retired. That was our big podcast last time.
Yeah, good for him.
Old producer Alex helped fill, not totally fill your void, but he tried.
My void is easily filled.
And the other thing that we talked about on the podcast last time in depth was the first season of Israeli NBA rookie Denny Avdia, who is now out for the year with torn MCL. I can't remember what exactly.
I think it's a torn MCL. It's a bad injury. It could be a hairline fracture.
You know, it's all bad when it's in the leg. I mean, I guess it's like you hope he'll be back for the next year without too much delay, but who knows?
It's really sad that the NBA's primary Jewish player is out for the year, and we're left with that one. But on the other hand, his mother knows a really good doctor.
That's good.
Thank you. Thank you.
We should, we've profiled like owners and managers and stuff like that, and like things further afield from the playing service. I would like to do a profile on all the orthopedic surgeons in the NBA, and I would put money at least 2/3 are Jewish.
But you don't hear about like your Dr. James Andrews, who's definitely not Jewish, and he's sort of a baseball guy. But yeah, I bet we could find some good Jewish doctors. I remember Toronto has a few sports medicine doctors who are definitely Jewish and probably related to one or two of us that the Leafs that have worked on the Leafs over the years.
Well, in my day job, we occasionally get doctors to do opinions for us on injured plaintiffs in lawsuits. And the Toronto Raptors orthopedic surgeon is a doctor that we use often. He writes excellent reports.
Is he Jewish?
I'm not sure, actually. I think he is, but I'm not positive. We might have to have him on sometime to talk about whether or not he's Jewish and like Kyle Lowry's tibias. So that should be our next one. So we wish Devi an easy recovery. Hopefully he's back for the beginning of next year or early next year. Everything's sort of screwy with the NBA schedule this year. Doesn't it feel weird that like there's still like non-playoff basketball happening right now,
especially with the Olympics coming up? Like I know that Canada and the US both are looking to send teams of NBA pros, but the Olympics is only in 90 days. Starts in 90 days.
Canada's in the Olympics for basketball?
They have to win the play-in tournament, but they're the highest ranked team in the play-in tournament. And most of the Canadian NBA stars have pledged to go. Unfortunately, none are Jewish, but a number of them have pledged to go. But
let's take what we can get.
Yeah, we'll take what we can get. But it's interesting because obviously Israel wasn't in the tournament, but they would have lost their best player now, with a short time, and it feels like there's going to be no break between it, and then the new season starts right away.
But I think they're pushing. I think the whole idea is to push everything a little later to make the NBA season go on into the summer. I mean, I guess that makes some sense because, like, you figure, like, hockey usually was like usually wound up by the end of June, right? And then
hockey and basketball usually end by the end of June.
Yeah, and then July and August was just baseball, and then going into the very, very beginning of like preseason NFL, which no one really cares about. But now there will be something more in July and August, I guess.
That's great. In other sad injury news, Toronto's favorite Jewish athlete, Zach Hyman, he popped his knee, but it's not any worse. So they thought he could be out for the year, but he's only going to miss a week or two.
Right. That's great. We also talked about him in our last podcast. So sorry for putting the kibosh on anyone, giving them a little bit of the Menschwarmers.
Rob. The man's warmers rub.
Talking about them too much. But if that works, then we should start talking about Trump maybe.
Exactly. As long as we stay out of Lance Stroll, there's still global Jewish superstar that we can all watch in F1, because F1 injuries can be pretty gnarly.
So anything been my memories of the first couple of weeks of being a parent is like a lot of like staying up and trying not to move, just like trying to like listening to podcasts or reading something on my phone quietly while the baby slept on my chest.
I'm doing exactly that. My wife and I sort of have an alternate sleep schedule.
Right.
We each have our times with the baby, and I do a lot of sitting, watching the baby sleep while also like with a baseball game on in the background, whispering words like Tatis and Kipnis to my child.
See, that was, the pandemic really robbed me of that, because our baby was born just more than a year ago, and they canceled baseball a week after she was born. They canceled all sports a week after she was born. Like my the baby sleeping on me while I watch baseball was just like reruns of The Sopranos instead. That was the best I could do.
Of course. So yeah, the baby was born on Masters Sunday.
Yeah, I know. I still can't believe you didn't name the baby Hideki. I'm so disappointed in you. We had a pact. We wasn't involved in the pact, unfortunately. But
Berger. If he won, maybe I would have named the baby Berger if Daniel Berger won the Masters.
Right. So I guess that's like to catch up on, our Jewish golfers that we follow, Max Homa and Daniel Berger. None of them have had tremendous success at the Masters. But, there's always next year and 3 more majors this year. We'll see how they do. Anything that's been piquing your interest? Anything that's been interesting you in terms of Jews and sports issues?
Neat email from the Jewish publication, The Forward, came into my inbox this morning. It was it
was forwarded to you.
It was forwarded to me. It was a very, very fascinating article about U.S. Senator John Ossoff's decently high level ultimate frisbee career.
Oh wow! What level did he play at? Like just a high
school? He
played
like college club.
Oh, cool. That's cool.
But he's actually the article written by Talia Zaks, who we'll probably have to speak to in some degree about this, because I'm fascinated by the whole story. It's sort of all about how politics, the senatorial race and other different, other bills passage and elections sort of match the spirit of ultimate frisbee, where it's both very competitive, but also there's a lot of like ground rules of sportsmanship as well. There's a lot of individual skill involved, but it takes a whole team and everyone has to be working in tandem. And it's sort of, she likes to make the analysis that it's sort of great individual charisma propped up by a very sort of poignant, graceful group. Interestingly, his wife was the captain of the Georgetown University women's team. So he and his wife were big sort of ultimate players. Oh yeah. So he was on a very good high school team, played club in college, but his wife was a really high level player. So it's sort of a fun Jewish story for a notable Jewish politician, young Jewish politician, a pronoun millennial, as they say, the senior senator from Georgia, who now is sort of right on the top of things young Jewish adults like.
That's true. I mean, I certainly do see thirsty tweets about him from Jewish women I follow, or Jewish men. I guess this is more support, Gabe, for your theory that ultimate frisbee is the most Jewish of all the sports.
I think so. It's up there. Given that the right now the best ultimate players in the world, sort of all time, are guys named Brody Smith and Bo Kitteridge. It's not really all that Jewish at the highest level.
Okay.
But we have guys like Senator Ossoff, who are sort of the famous ultimate players, and movie producer Joel Silver. Those are the famous ultimate players. We'll have to chat with Jody Avergan, former guest and friend of the pod, about that.
Well, maybe that'll lead the a change in Congress as there's more millennials elected. It won't be like the congressional softball game.
It'll be the congressional ultimate game.
Yeah, I can imagine that happening. Why not? I'm sure there's other sports that are they play basketball at the Supreme Court. Like there's a basketball court at the Supreme Court.
Yeah,
the highest court in the land, as they call it.
The ultimate game will be really, really great until like Mitch McConnell or some other 95-year-old dinosaur tears his ACL on the first step.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that it would have to be restricted to just millennials for the future. It's a it's a physical game,
Oh, I've seen some horrifying, gnarly injuries.
Yeah, I feel like that's because you mostly play on turf, right? Like I feel like
Yeah,
the games at the varsity or whatever are like
I I
not
did
on
play.
good grass
I did
to
once
be running
play
on.
in a game on grass at like a beautiful field in town. Gorgeously manicured, where a guy both dislocated and broke his ankle in the same move.
Ugh,
Um,
ugh.
and it's that sort of the Jewish story where somebody says, "Is anybody a doctor here?" And like everyone rushes up. um,
Well, speaking of Jewish sports teams, I'm going to segue here. I should say that we have an interesting interview coming up with Andrew Exler, who's the director of content and strategy for Lost Tribe Esports. We very interesting conversation with him about this organization that's sort of trying to create a online Jewish community of sorts.
We don't talk a lot about esports on this show. There aren't a lot of notable Jewish video game characters, but there are a lot of notable Jewish video game fans and content creators. And Lost Tribe is sort of attempting to bridge the gap lost sort of in the changing demographics of the Jewish youth group story. Sort of creating an online and started with game focused. And as Andrew will tell you, it's sort of expanded a place for Jewish youth to meet and connect online, essentially all over the world.
Yeah, it's very cool. Not something that necessarily you and I know about. Although you play, do you play any online games? Do you play like FIFA and stuff, or
No, not really.
NBA 2K?
I'm too afraid of children insulting my family. No, I have played barely online. I play with friends. Like I'll play 2K with a friend, or like some sort of samurai game with a friend. But I'm not. It's not like I'm going on the servers and like looking for trash talk.
Right. Yeah, the only video game I play is Civilization, which is there is a multiplayer mode, but it is really just like being by yourself playing a game solo and
are there
trying
any
to
of
conquer the world.
any
Although
of
Mark Zuckerberg, notable Jew Mark Zuckerberg is a huge Civilization fan.
Are there any like Jewish characters in Civ? I know you can be like Gandhi or Lincoln or whatever, but is there like
interesting question? So none of the leaders that have been in any of the games, I think to my knowledge, are Jewish. It's mostly world leaders. Israel has never been a civilization that's been included. Jerusalem has been a city-state that's been in the games, but you can't really play as it. You can interact with it. The only thing that there has been is that there's, in the last couple of iterations of the game, there's great people who you can gain through different things. So like you can gain a great scientist or great artist or something like that. So someone like Einstein has been in the game as a great scientist, but it's just sort of like a placeholder name. It doesn't really mean anything. You can found Judaism as a religion in at least the last 3 games.
interesting?
Which sort of models it models the civilization itself, but not a lot of Jewish content altogether. The creator's name is Sid Meier. I don't think he's Jewish, but Mike Jacobs, all-star video game creator.
Absolutely. Sidney K. Meyer is not Jewish, unfortunately. I feel like men named Sidney, that's like a real old school Jewish name.
Well, it's Meyer, Meier, so I feel like that's the less Jewish.
Right, of course. But he is Canadian, so it would have been a close Canadian Jewish news.
Is he? I thought he was from
Sarnia, Ontario.
Oh, born in Sarnia. Wow, how about that?
So something we get to in the interview and something we can debate here is that we're wondering, can you think of any notably famous Jewish video game characters? We get to Smash Brothers in the interview and debate Donkey Kong a little bit, but I did some research after that we spoke and found out that the main character of Wolfenstein is Jewish. You're an American soldier killing Nazis.
That's good. Aside from that, yeah, not many. I mean, maybe Wario, he's sort of swarthy and
stout. But I thought he was Italian.
No, because Mario is Italian. Yeah, Wario is his reflection. He's like
it's his
Swiss
cousin.
Or something.
Wario and Waluigi are brothers who are Mario and Luigi's cousins. No, he's Swiss. He's got a little French in him.
He's like, he's evil Italian, aka the Swiss.
The Swiss, as Robin Williams called them, the good Nazis.
Boy, I don't know. I mean, we talked about adaptation characters like Krusty in a Simpsons game doesn't really count. So I don't know that there's any Jewish video game characters who it's really important to the story. I can't really think of there being that many Jewish video games. I'm sure there's lots of Jews involved in all parts of video game development, design, stories, and stuff like that, but it's not like they've done an Assassin's Creed, the Maccabees kind of thing. We have not featured in the video game world so much.
Of course, our producer Michael has sent us a list apparently there is, not surprisingly, a Jewish lawyer in the Grand Theft Auto series.
Oh yeah, sure. Right.
Yes, exactly. As well, there is a apparently Solid Snake of Metal Gear Solid has had a Jewish girlfriend by the name of Meryl Silverberg.
Nice
I
for him.
suppose I was about to say, I guess that like Tevye Lipschitz was a little too obvious, so they went with Meryl Silverberg.
I guess something like Grand Theft Auto is probably the best possibility because they've done games in a fictionalized Miami and a fictionalized Los Angeles, so
New York too.
Yeah, fictionalized New York. So it makes sense that there must be some fictional Jews that have popped up in some of those games.
Looking through the Smash Brothers roster, who's definitely not Jewish, there's ice climbers. And I don't know if there's ever been a Jew who's climbed a big enough, ice shelf to be an ice climber.
That's interesting. I mean, most of the characters I think live in a world where there isn't religion, right? Like the Nintendo
there's
characters.
monarchism, though. They all do live in a kingdom, the Mushroom Kingdom.
Bowser's got a quite Jewish, a somewhat Jewish name, I think. So
for a long time, the president of Nintendo's name was actually Bowser.
Right.
Given our proclivity for the boardroom, I wonder if he was actually Jewish.
Good question. I guess this is something to look into in the future. We'll have to see if we can get some hard data on, maybe Ken and Ryu are secretly Jews or something.
Secretly Jews. Exactly. You think about Lucario, or like, I know that you can throw the Pokeball and Mr. Mime comes out. Mr. Mime's probably Jewish. Like, he's an entertainer.
He is sort of based on like a vaudeville era clown, I think, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think that'll give us something to chew on in the future. But for now, let's get to our interview with Andrew. We're here with Andrew Exler, the Director of Content and Strategy for Lost Tribe Esports. Andrew, how's it going?
It's going great. How about yourselves?
All good. Very nice to have you here. We hear you're calling in from Pittsburgh.
I am. Best city in North America, according to you guys. I love it.
Yeah, great city, Pittsburgh. We are actually the second Pittsburgher Yinzer we've had on the show.
Right after Jonathan Mayo.
We had Jonathan Mayo from MLB.com who talked a lot about great Pittsburgh. And I actually have been to a Pittsburgh Pirates Jewish Heritage Night, totally by coincidence.
No, yeah, I know the guy who runs the whole thing there.
There you go. You see,
Of course I do.
Of course you do. Yeah, exactly. I'm surprised you weren't in the Temple Sinai Choir singing the national anthem.
Funny.
Unfortunately, these interviews tend to degrade into Jewish geography faster and faster every episode.
I could play it all night.
So, Andrew, tell us a little bit about what Lost Tribe Esports is and how it got started, how you got interested in it, and what the company does.
Sure. So I'll try and kind of keep it on the timeline. So Lost Tribes, I guess, was technically founded in 2017, 2018 by our CEO, Lenny Silverman, also a fellow Pittsburgher. He was kind of a mentor of mine growing up. The long story short of Lost Tribe, we are a nonprofit Jewish organization. We started as Lost Tribe Esports, really focused on Jewish teen engagement. There was a study a few years ago that found that 80% of Jewish youth become disengaged in Jewish life after their bar bat mitzvah years. So we've got 80% disengaged, 20% engaged. You know that 20% are the ones going to summer camp, the ones in their youth groups, the one going to day school. What about that 80%? What is the reason there's an 80%? Is it because they are just like athletes, or they're in theater and they're busy, or just they want nothing to do with the Judaism? So Lenny basically took it upon himself, with a lot of other work that he's done, to say, how do I re-engage that 80%? And his story's funny because he'll be the first to tell you he doesn't care about esports, but the community that's built within esports is what it really gets him. And he was with his family a couple years ago, and one of the kids was in the house on his headphones playing Xbox one day, talking to somebody, and Lenny couldn't grasp like who he could be talking to while playing a video game. Gets off and starts telling him how you can play on Xbox Live or whatever it is, and you can go back and forth. And Lenny asked him, like, would that be something you would want to do if it was like with your Jewish friends, your camp friends? And he thought it was like, yeah, I would love to be able to interact with my camp friends basically year round. So that's kind of where Lost Tribe was born. We knew there is now a way to engage Jewish people virtually from the comfort of their own home. 24/7, whether you're sitting in Sydney, Australia, or Seattle, Washington, you can be connected there. And part two is it's just very low barrier. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to go to the JCC. You don't have to go to summer camp. You can be on your couch or in your bedroom and be able to participate. So for us, It's been a really low barrier way to engage Jewish teens all around the world, and we've been able to do it. And I'm sure we can talk a little bit more of how we've engaged that 20% that love the Jewish content and the ones who might have otherwise run away from Jewish content. I was one of those when I was a kid, so I can talk all about it.
Sure. I mean, I think we probably had periods of that ourselves, and have come back towards Jewish community in some ways. I think Gabe and I are probably of an age that, just on the cusp of being able to understand online gaming and that sort of thing. But for maybe our older audience, let's say, can you talk a little bit about, what is esports? I mean, aside from just being, video games online, what is it? How is there a community around it these days? How are people interacting online around esports?
I think we know what Fortnite is, but beyond that, we're a little lost.
Nice. So esports, I mean, the simple way to say it is it's competitive video game play, and it can be any video game. It could be your sports games, your shooter games, your action games, whatever it is. And it started as, once these consoles over the last 10, 15 years became so much more advanced than they have been, where I can now sit at home, I can connect to internet on my Xbox, I connect with my best friend in Chicago, and I can hop on with him and play against him one-on-one casually. But now there are teams equivalent to Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA. There are professional leagues for each video game where it is competitive play. There are tickets, there are arenas, you're showing up, you're supporting, you're watching players. And the way that Lenny really talks about it for Lost Tribe is, you think back to the days of when after school, kids go to basketball practice, soccer practice. What about that one kid who just kind of plays video games? He's not that physically athletic, so he goes home and he plays video games. Now, because of esports and the way the industry has changed, kids are going to basketball practice, kids are going to baseball practice, kids are going to esports practice. And now it's building a community of the same camaraderie, team, sportsmanship, competition. And we've really taken the approach of making it cool, fun, competitive, social, and then Jewish. And we make sure to really build it in a way that's comfortable for everybody.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go on. No, I was going to say, are you focused primarily on teens, or is there a graduation type of Lost Tribe, or are you guys looking to send, somebody to the Global StarCraft League one day as a Lost Tribe graduate?
Sure. So it's a great question. And when we started, we were Lost Tribe Esports. We still are. We have morphed more into this lifestyle brand where, honestly, esports is just a component of now what we do. We do a lot more. We have content networks. We do shows. We do Jewish. We do all these different things. Right now, our target is 13 to 17-year-olds, but we do have an 18+ space. We're on Discord, which is a communication channel app. If anyone uses Slack for business, it's pretty much that for gamers, where you can communicate. We have 18 and older channels. We've worked with API fraternity specifically in the past on private events and tournaments for them. And in the fall, we're planning on continuing to target the older space as well. Lost Tribe is not a youth group. It's not a camp. It's, once you're a part of it, you can be part of it forever.
And I understand you guys have partnered with Maccabi Games even to sort of introduce esports as a component of that.
Correct. But unfortunately, the pandemic canceled the games this past summer, but Lost Tribe was going to be leading the way on esports competitive games happening as a medal sport.
So it's very interesting. It sounds like, the Judaism or the Jewish aspect of this is not like at the forefront necessarily, but in the same way that, probably thousands or millions of people who played on a JCC rec league team or something like that, that is just sort of a way to get a community of Jews together. And I take it, you're based out of Pittsburgh, but based on what you're saying, it sounds like, there's people all around the country who can log in and play together simultaneously, or around the world even, time zones pending.
Exactly. I mean, we've got our feet on the ground in Israel and in Argentina right now. On our Discord channel, we have an English channel, a Hebrew channel, a Spanish channel, and they're all active all hours of the day.
So that's a great point. Leads me into my next question is, where are you guys all over the world? Like, are you limited to those 3 countries, or are you in other places? And, or, are the games, like, do they play, you said they might play in different languages. Do they all play the same games, or do different people play different games all over the world? Or do even Jewish kids play different games than, the top charts?
Sure. And it's so interesting because, like, once I started really working with Lost Tribe, I learned that, like, Xbox is a very North America console. Everybody else is PlayStation all around the world.
Oh, really?
So we were partnered with BBYO a year and a half ago at their international convention, where they bring in 3,000 plus teams from around the world. And we had this massive, like 40 console sports esports arena set up. And it's so interesting how the international teams are coming in and they're really sticking to the PlayStations. They're playing FIFA, where all the American kids are playing Madden or they're playing Super Smash Bros. On Nintendo Switches. But for the most part, I mean, they all play everything. I mean, teens are teens, especially like Gen Z is really who we target. We don't even say like teens. We really are focusing on Gen Z, and they scare the crap out of me, but they also impress the heck out of me because they are just such a unique generation as I've started to get familiar, and I'm a millennial. But the way that they interact on these Discord channels and they want to talk to and just become friends, it's not just about gaming. We have channels where they're talking about sports or music or movies, just talking, and they're making friends.
And that, I mean, these are kids who spent their whole lives on the internet. I mean, Jamie and I are both in our early 30s. Like, I remember when you had to seek out people, or, you know, you had MSN or ICQ or AIM, or that's how you talk to people. Yep. And it was only people you knew. Meeting strangers through some common thing on the internet was weird and scary. But I think it's, you know, you guys are lucky that you provide a place where you have a generation that is very, very into that.
Exactly. I mean, it's so beautiful because, I mean, for me, like I was saying before we started, is like I was not a gamer growing up. I was a sport management grad in college. I mean, I loved working in sports. I understood the esports industry and really how valuable it is. But what really got me in the esports industry is the community aspect of esports, how you can really come together and how inclusive it is. You do not have to be the most physical specimen in the world to be the best Madden player. And that's what makes it so unique. There was a commercial a few years ago, a Microsoft commercial that was all about their accessibility controllers, regardless of, I mean, whether if you're in a wheelchair or if you are missing certain limbs, whatever you do, they've been able to accommodate it and make it okay for anybody to be able to play. So for us, being able to lean into that community aspect that anybody can play. If you're introverted, you do not have to come to a convention with 5,000 people. You can stay home and you can still participate, and we'll find ways to give you leadership and learning opportunities.
And, you know, I guess the pandemic has brought some of that into sharper focus because, you know, as we're unable to gather in the ways that we used to, especially, you know, Jewish communities, I think have always or have largely been about a physical gathering space in the past. But this is, you know, the rare example of something that is just, you know, completely virtual and sort of sets the model for the way, you know, synagogues and other Jewish community organizations have sort of had to go virtual at a necessity the past year. I take it that's something, you know, we're going to continue to see more and more of in the future. It's interesting to see that, you know, for youth who I think have a sort of second nature of being online, right? You know, for some of the words you've been saying, I'm familiar with the idea of Discord, but I've never actually been on it, and it's not like a second nature to me the way like Gabe mentioned ICQ would have been or something like that.
The best comparison I can make for Discord is like you think about your local JCC teen lounge where the teens are hanging out. It's 24/7. I think right now we've got almost 3,000 people in our Discord, 3,000 team members, and at any time we have around 300 to 400 people active, all times of the day. They're talking, they're hanging out, and I mean that's that community that we're building. The pandemic, while we like carefully talk about it, the pandemic was very interesting for the esports world because we don't want to say we benefited from it, but I think the world started to respect esports because of the pandemic. People started to respect the virtual nature of life. It went from screens are bad to we need screens and we need Zoom and we need all this to really be able to get by with our daily life. So we've been able to actually provide a sense of normal to a lot of people while they were struggling and they couldn't leave their houses.
Even if you remember, you know, I'm thinking of the first sports that aired, you know, a year ago this week or next week, you know, you had a virtual F1 race that was on ESPN, or, you know, virtual NASCAR that was on a few weeks at a time. And it sort of shows part of the changing face. But I want to go back to the youth group mention that you had earlier. And, you know, I was a camp guy. Jamie was a camp guy. Were you a camp guy?
Oh, yeah. 16 summers.
There you go. Exactly. So you were a real camp guy. But I was also a youth group guy. You know, a lot of my friends were from, and I'm curious to know how this either replaces or complements that traditional sort of shul youth group community.
Sure. So, I mean, the best thing for us is we are partnered with every JCC in North America. We're partnered with all of the major youth groups, a ton of summer camps, because we do become a complement to them. We're not trying to compete and take kids. And I spent 5 years working for BBYO before I started working for Lost Tribe. So very familiar coming from that world. We partner with BBYO. We offer programming opportunities. We create.
I was a Nifty kid, so no hate, but
no hard feelings at all. I loved working with Nifty when I was working here in Pittsburgh. Like Minecraft, which is like a virtual space where you can build your own worlds. We work with summer camps, and we literally model summer camps in Minecraft, especially summer 2020 when camp was canceled. We hired people to build exact models of camp. And then you have Minecraft on one side of the screen and a Zoom call on the other. And the campers are in there. They're going to their amphitheater for Shabbat services on a Zoom call. They're going and playing archery that we're able to set up in Minecraft. We work with a lot of the youth groups to try and provide programming, because ultimately for us, if we get a kid who finds their life of Judaism through Lost Tribe suddenly, and all of a sudden they meet one of their friends from BBYO in our Discord channel where they're talking, and all of a sudden it gets them to go to a BBYO convention and go meet in person for the first time. I mean, that's the biggest win as possible. If we're taking an 80%er and actually we're making that 20% and a 22 or 25%, that's really our goal right now.
That's great. Mm-hmm. I know this isn't a visual medium, but I see some memorabilia behind you. Is that a Lost Tribe jersey? Is it the jersey for people competing in some of the teams?
Yeah. It's the first Lost Tribe jersey that we've designed. We currently don't have an official Lost Tribe team. That's kind of next in the works. But we do have an awesome apparel store. We work with MetaThreads, who is one of the providers for a lot of the esports teams, and have created Lost Tribe jerseys. It's kind of hard to tell, but there's a Jewish star that kind of goes around the outside of it.
Is there a particular game that you think there might be a Lost Sports team in the future? Any plans for that?
We have a lot. We're all over the place in the games that a lot of our kids play. I think Rocket League is probably the most popular right now because it kind of ties in the sporty game, but it's also like a racing game. It's very, very interesting for me.
It also just went free. So I'm not saying like that's like a really big news for the esports world.
Yeah. Rocket League, Fortnite is huge. Super Smash Bros. Has always been massive. And like for me, like the games I did play growing up were the sports games. Those are actually kind of our least popular. Like we don't get a lot of people coming for Madden or NBA or NHL. There's definitely that demographic, but Fortnite, Rocket League, Valorant is huge for us as well.
I didn't even know that last one.
Do you think any of the Smash Bros are Jewish? If you were to pick one Super Smash Brothers character who was
interesting question,
was Jewish, who would it be?
I feel like Yoshi might be. I don't know.
Yoshi, yeah. I feel like
see him davening at the wall.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like Star Fox and Falco have a bit of a sort of like Rogue Han Solo-esque Jewish vibe.
Yeah, DK might have converted.
Yeah, Donkey Kong might have converted. That's true.
It's interesting. I don't know that there are many canonically Jewish video game characters. I mean, I'm sure there must be some at this point. Aside from like adaptations and things like that, I'd be curious how many canonically Jewish video game. You can play as Team Israel in FIFA. I guess that's about the closest thing.
Yeah,
I think that might be really the only biggest one. There is. I mean, like Simpsons games have Krusty the Clown. If there's an X-Men game where you can be Magneto. If there's like a Batman game with Harley Quinn, those are really the only like the biggest Jewish, but they're all other media that gets turned into.
I guess on Fortnite you can like buy a skin, so we can all be like Julian Edelman.
Cool.
Right. I guess we can like dress up as him or like Nate Ebner.
Yeah,
that's cool. That's true. I guess a few characters in Madden as well, or some of the sports games. But aside from that, I mean, I take it there's no particularly. I don't know, Jewish skill. Like there's no game that Jews tend to excel at, but it's nice to see that there's a wide range of things that you guys are supporting and encouraging people to make a community around. Absolutely. Why not have a Jewish Fortnite? Why not have a Jewish Minecraft? And that story about camp is really, that's really cool. I mean, I would have loved that last summer. If I was still going to camp to be able to interact virtually. Minecraft especially, which is a game I've never played, but like I'm sort of mystified by. Minecraft seems like the kind of thing like if I started playing it, I think they'd find me 2 weeks later in my basement.
It's one of those games where it's 8 p.m. and then all of a sudden it's 4 a.m.
Yeah. But it's amazing that you can really create the virtual facsimile of the physical space.
Sort of want to get back to your next step. So you're saying that coming soon is going to be you're continuing to partner with B'nai B'rith, you're continuing to partner with other Jewish organizations, the JCC, and you're looking to start a team. What is next for Lost Tribe on the sort of the 5-year horizon?
Sure. So our big focus right now is we kind of turn into this lifestyle brand where, because there are a lot of Jewish people in that 80% who definitely don't play video games, and or they might be totally turned off by then. So how can we continue to create other opportunities? How can we engage a more female identifying demographic as well? So early March, we launched what we now call the Lost Tribe Content Creator Network. Essentially, we know, like we were saying at the beginning of this, there are a lot of Jewish content creators out there, whether they're podcast hosts or they're streamers on Twitch or they're just general influencers or they're comedians. What can Lost Tribe do to engage them in our world, create a new podcast for them, get them on our Twitch streams to help reach their audience that we might not already be reaching? So for us, we brought a young woman on named Libby Walker. She goes by Cheryl Cohen, is kind of her shtick she does on TikTok. She's got 20,000 plus followers on there. She just does this Jewish mom thing. And we reached out to her and said, we might have an opportunity to try and engage a female identifying demographic and also get some comedy into what we're doing. We launched a podcast with her called Jewish Mom Approved. We're 3 episodes in. She's interviewed 3 different Jewish content creators or influencers, Jewish people who are out there doing very cool things in the world, because we want to engage people in the easiest way possible. For me, like I said, I mean, I purposely got kicked out of Sunday school after my bar mitzvah, so I didn't have to go back ever again. And that's just because, like, I went to Jewish summer camp. I played in the JCC basketball league. That was enough for me. And I know there's a lot of people out there like myself who just don't necessarily want to engage in like the deep Jewish content or the Jewish ritual. And that's okay. And there's a lot of people out there who say that's not okay. And that's why there's now an 80%. So we've created a content creator network. We have really leaned into our social media to try and make it funny, let people engage with us. If they want to engage with Jewish life because they listen to one Jewish podcast host, because they think she's funny and that's what they're doing, that's a win for us. We don't want to force you into doing anything, but we know we're engaging you. The best example I have is during Hanukkah last December, we did 8 nights of giveaways on our Twitch streams that was right around when the new Xbox and the new PlayStation came out that were impossible to get. And we gave away an Xbox, but at the end of every stream, before we would announce the winners of these big prizes, we would light the menorah, do the Hanukkah blessings, whatever it was. And we had 1,000+ people watching these streams. After Hanukkah, we sent out a survey and learned that like a couple hundred people said they would not have otherwise celebrated Hanukkah unless they were watching our stream. So we know we're reaching the people and we're trying to make it cool, fun, competitive, social, and Jewish.
That's great. You know, this is a really great story. I mean, I think this is sort of the future of Jewish community engagement in the 21st century. Andrew, I think we're going to end it there. But thanks so much for joining us. I think the best place for people to get involved with Lost Tribe is at your website, losttribesports.org. It seems like you guys are on a lot of social media, so people can find you there.
I have to give you guys kudos for your TikTok. It is fantastic.
Thank you.
Excellent TikTok content.
Thank you. We have a lot of fun with it. TikTok has been one I've been teaching myself over the last 8 months, and it is so much fun to watch our whole team on there every day.
Oh yeah, I got to start a TikTok for our show. It's on the to-do list.
100%. It's a lot of fun.
That's great. Well, thanks again for joining us, and please, everybody, check out Lost Tribe Esports. Tell your kids to.
Please. Thank you.
Well, thanks a lot to Andrew for joining us from Lost Tribe Esports. I can say that if that was around when I was a kid, it would have been even harder for my parents to get me to go to Hebrew school.
I think as someone who similarly, I went to day school and then stopped going when I went to high school and like didn't have a lot of connection to Judaism, I guess, after that, at least until university. That's something that would have brought me in. I would have been definitely interested in that as a waste ute back in those days if it had existed at that time.
Totally. And I mentioned in the interview, I was even a youth group kid. I liked the trips. I like the friends. I like the scene, and we had good friends. I still see a lot of them. But it's actually, I still see one of them, but it's still not like, I bet I would have been more into it if it was a little more like into my interests, because it was still somewhat of a pain.
Yeah. And for all the, kids who are playing video games online, this is a great way to get them all together.
I also, as a recent parent, I think like these are the sort of innovations that I think I will be able to use to compromise with my child when they don't want to leave the house and play video. Like, okay, like how many parents are saying like, fine, Ben, you can play Fortnite all night, but like, can you please do it with your Jewish friends?
I think that's probably goes into the calculus. And it's weird enough that like people are doing things online, but like if you hear like who are you playing with right now, it's just like, oh, just some random people I never met. It's much more nebulous than these kids I went to camp with, or these kids I went to Hebrew day school with, or something like that.
Totally. But imagine if you said to your parents, oh, some random kid, but he's from Argentina and he's Jewish. That would, like, my parents would have been like, oh, that's good. They're talking, they're friends.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's a great point. I think we should probably leave it around there for now. As always, you can please like and subscribe to our podcast. You can follow all things CJN on Facebook and at the CJN Lounge, and you can keep abreast to what's going on with the CJN at cjnews.com, which is now moved to the cjn.ca. You can follow us, the Menschwarmers, on Twitter at Menschwarmers, and we'll see you next time.
As soon as we get that TikTok up, we'll tell you all. Please enjoy the new season of Stissel, which has just been released. As well, we now realized, our producer Mike has told us, that you can create a me and put it in Smash Brothers on the Nintendo system. So that would be the most Jewish character, would be us, yourself. You could put yourself in the game. And I'll leave that from me to you, and from Jamie and everyone here at the Menschwarmers. Thanks to our producer Michael and the CJN. Have a wonderful week.